I'm very pleased to welcome Jean-Marc Ritti, Head of Global and Emerging Risk at Geneva Centre for Security Policy, so GCSP, and Anne-Marie Boutsatou, Vice President and Chief Operating Officer, ICT for Peace Foundation, Cecilia Charbonnier, co-founder, Research Director at Artanim, and co-founder, Chief Innovation Officer at Dreamscape Immersive, and Siva Meti, Professor in Data Protection and Computer Criminal Law at University of Lausanne. So welcome. I'll let you start, and I let the vote running, and I will close it so you can start. Jean-Marc, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Emily, for this introduction. And according to the schedule, the panel should finish now. So we have about 10 seconds for the discussion on the metaverse, which is a bit of a challenge, but I'm sure we will extend it a bit. So for the sake of time, I will not introduce the speakers because Emily just did it. What I'll do is just straight jump into the topic, the metaverse. So the metaverse is probably unknown to you if you read the cyberpunk novel Snow Crash from Neil Stevenson, who coined the term in 1992. But I doubt that many of you have read this novel. Probably you heard about the metaverse earlier last year in October 28th when Facebook transformed into Meta platform. And what Metaverse is all about is a convergence of two ideas, basically virtual reality and living a second life. So virtual reality serves as a computing platform for living a second life online. So to deal more into this topic, I will first ask Cecilia, who is an entrepreneur who has extensive experience with virtual reality and augmented reality, to describe in her words what the metaverse is all about from a technical and technological perspective, and what's the use of metaverse.
Yeah, sure. So thank you very much for the introduction and for the invitation. So I think you already discuss a little bit about the topic, but if I was supposed to provide the definition of the metaverse, maybe I would start by that. So for me, it's a persistent, an online and 3D world or universe that can combine, multiple different virtual spaces. It's considered for many, and that's the way the media are always mentioning or discussing about the metaverse as the future iteration of the internet. We'll see if we will go on that direction, but that's one definition. And the metaverse will allow users actually to work, to meet, to play, to socialize together in those 3D spaces through several, I would say, online services. But for this, you will need several technology that are combined together. So the first one you already mentioned, one very important will be to use virtual reality, so VR, and augmented reality as well, but maybe let's concentrate on virtual reality because one of the goals of the metaverse will be to fully immerse the user in those universes. So basically you will have like a VR headset that you are going to use to be able to be projected in those 3D worlds. You will have your own avatar. It's another aspect because we want to be socialized, but also personalized in those virtual environments. So you will have your own avatar. And possibly what we would like to do as well is to immerse the user with all the senses, so visual, sounds, but maybe through other technology like haptics, for example. You'll be able to touch virtual things, for example. Artificial intelligence, I think we heard a lot of people talking about that topic. So that's a technology that will be also enabled and used in those universities, but also blockchain technology to support economies, data projection, and digital identity. So if you want to have one pictures of that, if you have watched, for example, the movie Ready Player One by Steven Spielberg, you have a nice, I would say, glimpse of what the future could be, but of course, hopefully without, the bad side of things as depicted in the movie where people would prefer to live in the virtual world to escape reality. So I hope we are not going in that direction as well, but we will make something that is very powerful, interesting, and useful for people. So that's one of the definitions.
Thank you. So basically it's about avatar, it's about immersive environment, and it's, and in a way, being able to feel the digital world and create a new world. And obviously, this is all exciting, but that creates lots of challenges. And one of the few challenges that we can see on the horizons is from the legal perspective. So then I turn to Sylvain, who is a professor in data protection and computer criminal law at the University of Lausanne, and ask him, does the metaverse create a new legal personality? Sylvain.
Thank you, Jean-Marc. Clearly not. So there was already a lot of discussion about rape in Second Life, maybe 10 years ago. And the answer was very clear. So there was no rape. An avatar is no human being, but maybe we might have found some harm to the, let's say, the reputation of the player. So by using one avatar to cause some harm to someone else, that might liaise to some consequences in the real life. So we also had some discussion 2 or 3 years ago about recognizing a legal personality to robots on AI. So in favor of that was the idea to accelerate the developments to allow for more risk. But of course, again, there was a lot of people and lawyers saying that was too risky. We should not have some robots that were nobody wants to be responsible because they are just too risky. So for now on, it's just a tool like a machine. So the user is responsible, or possibly the manufacturer if there are some defects. So we may have found some responsibility sometimes of the platform, most of the time of the user himself.
Good, right. So nothing new apparently, Anderson, from a legal perspective. I will come back to that in the second round of question. Now let's try to link, this panel with the previous one, which was on disinformation. And a question to Anne-Marie Buzato, who is the Vice President and Chief Operating Officer, ICT for Peace Foundation. And it has to do with what is the impact or the likely impact that Metaverse will have on disinformation. Anne-Marie.
Thank you so much, Jean-Marc, and it's really a pleasure to be here tonight. Just as Sylvain said, disinformation is nothing new. It's something that has been with humans as long as there has been humans and society. But at the same time, we can only look back the last 10, 15 years to see the impact that the internet has had on disinformation and vice versa. Specifically with the advent of internet and with this has really increased the reach, the speed, and the ease with which information can be spread, especially if it's that of an emotional or shocking nature. And this is done often with very little moderation and oversight. We are humans, and with being human, we tend to very quickly believe and want to share information that agrees with our own biases and our own beliefs. And I think that in the metaverse, there will be changing this environment again to one that's not just electronic or cyberspace, but one which is even much more immersive, which may even seem more compelling or real to our perceptions and our senses than a tweet is right now or an instant message. So I think that we're going to have to be very careful, try to learn lessons, which perhaps we still have not learned, right, up to this point on the internet, about how to be more careful with information. I think how to distinguish between fact and mal or mis or disinformation. And so the need for standards that we start to develop and adopt as a global society will be very important for this. I think also that education and capacity building of the general public to be more aware of how to tell fact from fiction, distortion, whether something is really inflammatory or emotional or shocking from fact is going to be even that much more important in the metaverse.
Thanks, Anne-Marie, and thanks for raising this point. This panel is part of the Tech4Trust, the Trust Valley. It's about digital trust and the metaverse, and the immersive nature of the metaverse will create an additional layer of complexity when it comes to digital trust. But now let's go back to Cecilia, and I can see that Paul Wang asked a question saying that, well, it looks like it's all hype, some are saying, and does the metaverse really exist? And so the question to you, Cecilia, is what are the challenges and new developments in the metaverse? And is it just, a fictional, or is it already becoming a reality?
So I would say it's becoming a reality. So right now, one of the specific aspects or challenges is interoperability. For example, you mentioned that. So each big company like Facebook or Meta now is developing its own version of the metaverse, but they are not, interconnected. So that's one of those challenges, because at some point, the vision of the metaverse we have is to have, like a unique system in which we can navigate from one virtual space to another. Right now, everybody is making his own kitchen on your site, but there is nothing really like common and global. So that's one of those challenges. You mentioned ethics, data privacy, data protection. So I think it's mainly the subject of that event. It's less my cup of tea, I would say, because I'm more on the technical side and on the VR, so the virtual reality side. So here as well, I see a lot of challenges, in particular when we are talking about the content itself, because basically what we would like to have at some point is to have compelling virtual world in VR, and for this it requires a lot of computational power to be able to render more and more realistic or photorealistic experiences, even if hardware is also evolving. But everywhere we want to push the boundary further. We were also talking about the avatar. So the avatar needs to be human-like, not only in terms of look, but in terms also of behavior, because you want to socially interact with them. So again, here it's very challenging because humans are very complex in nature. So from a technical point of view, to have like very good looking avatar that behave like a human, it's complex, in particular if it's your own avatar, so you are expecting also quite a lot. And I would say one other aspect is like who's going to create that specific content, because right now the metaverse, it's 3D world, this is what we said, but it's required, like a lot of 3D artists, game developer that are skilled at making those 3D environments. And there is no really like a specific tool that enables the content creation to anyone, because at some point every company would like to to create their specific content, but for this they need to have like a specific expertise right now. So I think we are really lacking the tools as well to develop those contents so that everybody can make this metaverse a reality.
I know it's very difficult to predict the future, but when do you think we will have reached the stage where we have a compelling immersive technology for the metaverse?
So we have already the technology in there. I mean, we have all the tools, that's what I'm saying. But what is maybe missing is to have tools that enable the usage for non-experts on those domains. For example, we are developing the tech on our side, but again, we need the experts to enable those content or to create the content or all the different experiences. Right now, what is missing is to have like really the tools for everyone to be able to get access to it and to be able to develop their own universe. And that's one step further that we're currently working on, and a lot of people are working on those aspects, for example, but I think we need a few more years until it gets there.
Good. So for the entrepreneur who are listening to this panel, you have some potential business ideas and developments, which is good. Now let's go back to Sylvain. You may have read that a woman complained that she was gang raped already in the metaverse, the beta version of the metaverse, and that her avatar was cropped. And the question is about, the concept of agency. What does agency mean in the metaverse, and also the perception of someone else avatar in the metaverse and the legal implication that it will have?
The first question is really a question of control. What's going on when I'm not there? Who is really acting on my behalf, on how? And that will be quite a lot of fun for lawyers, because we will have to contractually organize that, having a contract saying who can use my avatar, who is liable for that. Maybe it's just similarly that someone running my Instagram account because I have no time for that, and just like paying someone and have some responsibilities, some guideline. It could also be automated. And if so, there's always someone behind the code, behind the automation, would provide me some warranty or no warranty at all. So that's why we have the question that any lawyer would ask is, who is liable for what? And for the perception, that's maybe one of the big risks I see, because do the other people would see my avatar as myself, And if yes, that's a lot of risk, because there is a risk of hacking, there is a risk of deepfake, of misinformation. And because if I am saying someone and you see me saying that, you sure that that's me saying that. If it's my avatar, do you trusting because it looks like me or not? And there we will need some trust, some warranty from the platform, some certification, and so on. So there is a lot to deal with in the future with that.
Good. We already had a few issues with deepfakes, so we're adding layers of complexity and problems. Are you confident that legal system will adapt to this new environment and that will find solutions?
Yes, I think in theory, yes, because the more important warranties already exist would apply to consumer, would be criminal law, and we do not have a lot of choice around that. Then for all that will be around contracts, we can choose the contract we want and the law we want to apply. The difficulty is more to be aware of that and to understand how it works. And I'm not sure that everyone will just go and check what the avatar that looks like me is doing for being able to complain if there is some misuse of my avatar, or having a judge, if you go to a court in Lyon or Nyon and explain to the judge what is the metaverse, will probably take some time and some fun.
Yeah, it reminds me of Zuckerberg's hearing in front of the US Senate, and when the senator asked him what was his business model, how he was generating money. So yeah, sometimes it could take some time before policymakers actually get what the technology is all about. So we talked about risk so far, but let's look also at the potential positive uses of the metaverse. And obviously, ICT4Peace Foundation is looking for ways to enhance peace, promote peace through the digital domain. So, Anne-Marie, how do you see the positive uses of the metaverse for peace building or peace mediation or any other potential beneficial uses? You're muted.
Okay, unmuted. Thank you so much. And just as we were saying previously, that disinformation can be maybe more compelling in the metaverse, maybe we even feel it more viscerally, or it seems more real to us. The potential for creating emotional understanding and fostering empathy in the metaverse is enormous. And this is especially relevant in the area of peace building and mediation. You know, like most of us have had the experience of sitting down with somebody that maybe with whom we had serious differences, or we really thought that they were very different from us. And then after maybe a conversation over a meal or something, we started to find that there are a lot of things that we had in common, that we maybe even liked the other person, whereas before they were the other, and now they became somebody that we could relate to. The metaverse does provide like many opportunities and maybe even enhanced possibilities to share and to really understand and empathize the other person. For example, you could create a virtual reality experience in which you share what a day in your life is like and swap it with somebody who's very different with you. Your enemy will suddenly become somebody that you realize is so much more like you than you realize. And, you know, this type of technology and this possibility really creates this, you know, ability to really de-otherize the other, to really like the other, while at the same time being in the relatively safer position of not being physically present, which often is also a helpful thing. And just on that note, there are already a lot of efforts that are underway by different organizations to develop these kinds of technologies to gamify mediation, peace building efforts, but also in a more immersive and virtual reality way. So there's actually a lot of positive potential for the metaverse. So happy to leave on a positive note.
Well, thank you. And I think we will take these words of wisdom for concluding this panel. Indeed, a very interesting idea that actually metaverse could be used to increase empathy between people. You know, this is also something that could be further developed, you know, by companies, not just in the field of peace mediation, but we could apply that in lots of different settings. As we are short on time, and I think this topic would need a lot of development, but I hope we actually managed to raise your appetite to dive more into the metaverse, and I'm sure that this topic will come again in the future. And I now return the mic to Emily.